For passions, the power of emotion which propels man towards passion proceeds from his inner, spiritual being. It is then transformed into physical reaction, either raising him to the pinnacles of nobility, or making him descend into the pits of vice and degradation. When a lofty ideal is present, strong and overwhelming, it ignites the individual, and impels him to alter plans, remove obstacles, and overcome problems. Galileo dreamed of the heliocentric system, and Columbus visualized land to the west, inspired by reminiscence of past lives and the mathematical calculations of his day. Both men were fearlessly moved by passion, and persevered until they could finally expand the dimensions of the earth. Socrates, with his proposal of "Know thyself," and John Huss, who fervently loved the liberating gospel of Christ, chose to die rather than be dishonored before dull-minded men with moral and religious misconceptions. And Jesus, in his passion for love in its highest degree, offered himself so that men, through his teachings, could find themselves and advance towards the kingdom of God. But because of the deceitful ways of crime and dissolution in which the spirit takes pleasure, dazed by matter that clothes him, he delays the freedom he longs for. He gives up everything for the narrow moral prison in which he locks himself. Debasing passions thrive more easily and find better ground in persons of wavering minds. Likewise, passions thrive in those prone to indecision, whose experiences are still primitive and who weaken when faced by struggle. In them the animal nature is still dominant. Nero and Commodus, who were drenched in all kinds of promiscuity and crime, differ very little from Hitler and Himmler in the fury with which they sacrificed lives by reason of racial prejudice. Whenever emotion descends to primitive stages, it reaches the mind and drives it into a state of madness. When savagery and lasciviousness prevail, obsessions take place in the form of vampiric exploitation. This starts a process of delusions to some and of depletion of vital forces to others, who completely surrender to this power. Organized prostitution, sex offenses, moral corruption, are all dark dungeons that can sap any expression of life. They are a painful process of disintegration, corrosion, and poisoning of the mind. Lusterless eyes, a dull mind, lack of energy, are due to inner domination by lower spirits. These spirits continue in their vices after leaving the flesh. Such is the image of a person whose passion is depraved sex, a continuous process of animalization and degradation. Furthermore, we see hatred breeding revenge, jealousy causing pain, anger spreading destructive psychic forces, vanity benumbing the feelings, selfishness stifling ideals, waste destroying moderation. They are the fruits of passions that plague, persecute, and victimize those who harbor them. All these are the result of egotism that only values itself, aiming at its own profit, its own pleasures and opportunities, to the detriment of the victim that willingly surrenders to its domination. But we are all destined to reach the unfading glory of goodness, despite the long presence of evil we brought to ourselves, and the suffering we go through by preference. No matter how long this period of negativity, it will cease in obedience to the demands of evolutionary forces which cannot be stopped. We must begin, even now, to use the powerful antidotes to passions that disturb mankind in this present time. We already have excellent proof of what the chemistry of love can do, as well as the mechanics of charity, of which Christ became the supreme exponent. Tiny efforts add up to significant results. Small crumbs together form a sizable volume. As they aggregate, the atoms become living and dynamic forces. Putting a little effort now against anger, then a small crumb of charity, followed by an atom of expanding love, we will have started a conditioning that enables us to mobilize our resistance against all the great and damaging passions. A friendly thought, a courteous word, a gesture of care, and a shaking of the hand are the beginning of brotherhood and a better world. This better world is being built by the real followers of Christ, who are to be found everywhere on earth, waiting for the cooperation of those of goodwill among us. On Sunday's new chapter of the work, contribute by making donations with the publishing of works in the English language. Subscribe to our networks at Casa de Reading KO YouTube and Facebook.